CDL Practice Test, Texas, Air Brake, Part 4. Question number 79. During normal driving, spring brakes are usually held back by A. Springs, B. Air pressure, C. Bolts and braces. The correct answer here, B. Air pressure. Explanation. Spring brakes contain powerful springs that are held back by air pressure. If the pressure drops too low, the spring brakes will automatically kick in. Question number 80. Repeatedly pressing and releasing, fanning, the brake pedal may result in A. No change in brake air pressure, B. A buildup of brake air pressure, C. A loss of brake air pressure. The correct answer here, C. A loss of brake air pressure. Explanation. Each time you release the brakes, some compressed air leaves the system and must be replenished by the air compressor. If you keep pressing and releasing the brake pedal, air may leave the system faster than the air compressor can replenish it. The air pressure may drop to the point that the brakes won't work. Question number 81. On trucks and buses, where are ABS malfunction lamps located? A. On the driver's door, B. On the outside of the vehicle by the passenger's door, C. Under the hood, D. On the instrument panel. The correct answer here, D. On the instrument panel. Explanation. Tractors, trucks, and buses with anti-lock braking systems, ABS, have yellow malfunction lamps located on their instrument panels. Trailers have yellow ABS malfunction lamps on their left side, either on the front or rear corner. Question number 82. Which brake system applies and releases the brakes when the driver uses the brake pedal? A. Parking brake system, B. Emergency brake system, C. None of these, D. Service brake system. The correct answer here, D. Service brake system. Explanation. You put on the service brakes by pushing down the brake pedal, also called the foot valve or treadle valve. Question number 83. To ensure normal stopping power, drivers of vehicles equipped with a front brake limiting valve should A. Set the control to the off position, B. Set the control to neutral, C. Keep the control at the halfway mark, D. Set the control to normal. The correct answer here, D. Set the control to normal. Explanation. Some pre-1975 vehicles have a front brake limiting valve, which is normal and slippery settings. The idea behind these valves was to limit the air pressure available to the front brakes when driving on slippery surfaces, and thereby reduce the danger of a front wheel skid. Studies have found that this is not actually a concern. So if your vehicle has a front brake limiting valve, leave it in the normal position. Question number 84. Before a vehicle with dual air brakes is driven, pressure of at least should be built up in both braking systems. A. 10C, B. 25C, C. 50C, D. 100C. The correct answers here. D. 100C. Explanation. Before driving a vehicle with a dual air brake system, allow time for the air compressor to build up pressure of at least 100C in both the primary and secondary systems. Question number 85. The low air pressure warning signal will come on when the air pressure drops to C. A. 3040, B. 6080, C. 7595, D. 5575. The correct answers here. D. 5575. Explanation. Your low air pressure warning signal will come on if your air pressure falls to about 5575 C. This signal is usually a red light and may sometimes be accompanied by a buzzer. Question number 86. Which of the following is the most important thing about hard braking? A. Don't lock the wheels for longer than an instant. B. Disconnecting the steering axle brakes will help keep your vehicle in a straight line during emergency braking. C. Never do it without downshifting first. The correct answers here. A. Don't lock the wheels for longer than an instant. Explanation. When braking hard, don't lock the wheels for longer than an instant, which is done in stab braking. If the wheels stay locked, they will lose the grip of the road and your vehicle may skid or even jackknife. Question number 87. Which vehicles must have low air pressure warning signals? A. Vehicles built after 2010 must have low air pressure warning signals. B. None. Low air pressure warning signals are optional. C. Vehicles built after 2005 must have low air pressure warning signals. D. All vehicles with air brakes currently in operation must have low air pressure warning signals. The correct answers here. D. All vehicles with air brakes currently in operation must have low air pressure warning signals. Explanation. All vehicles on the road that have air brakes must have low air pressure warning signals. Question number 88. The S-cam, A. pulls the brake shoes away from the drum, letting the wheel roll freely. B. forces the brake shoes against the inside of the brake drum. C. controls the flow of air to each brake chamber. The correct answers here. B. forces the brake shoes against the inside of the brake drum. Explanation. When the S-cam rotates, it forces the brake shoes apart and against the inside of the brake drum. Friction will slow the rotation of the wheel. Question number 89. Some air brake systems have an alcohol evaporator. What is the purpose of the alcohol evaporator? A. to help break down harmful substances such as dirt, thus preventing them from entering the air tank. B. to help reduce the risk of built-up sludge in the bottom of the air tank. C. to help evaporate alcohol, which can be harmful to the brake system. D. to help reduce the risk of ice in air brake valves and other parts. The correct answers here. D. to help reduce the risk of ice in air brake valves and other parts. Explanation. The alcohol evaporator puts alcohol into the system. This alcohol helps keep ice from forming in the system, which can cause the brakes to fail. Question number 90. In the event of a brake system failure, the emergency brake system uses to stop the vehicle. A. Only the parking brakes. B. Parts of the service brakes and parking brakes. C. Only the service brakes. The correct answer is here. B. Parts of the service brakes and parking brakes. Explanation. Spring brakes use powerful springs to apply the brakes. Normally, air pressure in the brake chambers holds back the springs. Should air pressure drop too low because of a leak, the springs will apply the brakes and stop the vehicle. To apply the parking brakes, you release air from the brake chambers manually. Question number 91. The driver must be able to see a low pressure warning, which comes on before pressure in the service air tank falls below. A. 100 C. B. 60 C. C. 80 C. The correct answer is here. B. 60 C. Explanation. The low pressure warning is set to come on before your air tank pressure drops below 60 C. Question number 92. Which of these is true regarding the air governor compressor relationship? A. Cutout pressure is 100-120 C. B. When the air tank pressure rises to cutout level, the air governor signals the compressor to begin pumping air. C. The air governor is located inside of the compressor. D. The air governor controls the compressor. The correct answer is here. D. The air governor controls the compressor. Explanation. The air governor is located on, or near, the compressor, and its job is to regulate the amount of air pressure in the system. It does this by reacting to the air tank cutout and cut-in pressures. When the cutout level has been reached, about 125 C, the air governor tells the compressor to stop pumping air. Conversely, when pressure falls to the cut-in level, 100 C, the air governor tells the compressor to begin pumping air. Question number 93. An interlocked braking system, ABS, A. decreases your normal braking capability. B. shortens your stopping distance. C. activates when your wheels are about to lock up. D. increases your normal braking capability. The correct answer is here. C. activates when your wheels are about to lock up. Explanation. ABS does not have much effect on your everyday driving. It does not affect your braking capability or necessarily shorten your stopping distance. It just helps you keep control of your vehicle by activating when your wheels are about to lock up. Question number 94. In controlled braking, you, A. can turn sharply. B. lock the wheels for short periods of time. C. brake in a straight line. The correct answer is here. C. brake in a straight line. Explanation. In controlled braking, you brake as hard as you can without locking the wheels. As you do this, keep your vehicle going relatively straight. Question number 95. If the air tanks are not drained, A. your transmission fluid may drain out. B. your brakes may fail because of water freezing. C. your left side brake will cease to operate. D. you will drive too quickly. The correct answers here. B. Your brakes may fail because of water freezing. Explanation. Your air tanks hold a mixture of water and compressor oil. If left inside to collect at the bottom, the water may freeze and cause brake failure. Question number 96. The service brake system, A. applies and releases the parking brakes, B. applies and releases the emergency brake, C. applies and releases the axle brake, D. applies and releases the brakes when you press the brake pedal while driving normally. The correct answers here. D. applies and releases the brakes when you press the brake pedal while driving normally. Explanation. Air brakes consists of 3 separate braking systems: the service brake system, the parking brake system, and the emergency brake system. The service brake system applies and releases the brakes when you use the brake pedal while driving normally. Question number 97. To stop in a vehicle that uses air brakes, the driver should A. pull the air brake lever, B. engage the brake lever, C. pull the brake pedal up, D. push the brake pedal down. The correct answers here. D. push the brake pedal down. Explanation. To make a normal stop in a vehicle with air brakes, push the brake pedal down. The harder the pedal is pressed, the more air pressure is released. Question number 98. How do brakes work on a long, steep downgrade? A. They work as the main braking mechanism. B. They work as the main braking mechanism with the engine braking effect as an emergency backup. C. They work as a supplement to the braking effect of your engine. D. Not applicable. No braking effect is involved in a downgrade. The correct answers here. C. They work as a supplement to the braking effect of your engine. Explanation. When you drive down long, steep downgrades, the braking effect of your engine is what's most important, and your brakes are only a supplement to being in the proper low gear. They cannot compensate for your vehicle being in an unsafe high gear without putting too much pressure on your brakes. Question number 99. The most common type of foundation brake found on vehicles with air brakes is the A. wedge brake, B. S-cam drum brake, C. disc brake. The correct answers here. B. S-cam drum brake. Explanation. Foundation brakes are present on each wheel. In North America as of this writing, S-cam drum brakes are much more common than wedge or disc brakes. Question number 100. S-cam drum brakes have an S-cam in each brake chamber. Why is it called an S-cam? A. It is shaped like the letter S. B. It is constantly spinning whenever the wheel is spinning. C. It makes the brake shoes move in an S-shaped path. The correct answers here. A. It is shaped like the letter S. Explanation. The S-cam really is S-shaped. As it rotates, it forces the brake shoes away from each other and toward the inside of the brake drum. Question number 101. If your vehicle has an alcohol evaporator, you should daily in cold weather. A. check the oil for alcohol content. B. Check the alcohol level and refill as needed. C. Completely replace the alcohol. The correct answers here. B. Check the alcohol level and refill as needed. Explanation. Alcohol vapor from the alcohol evaporator helps keep ice from forming in the lines and valves of the air brake system. Check the alcohol level daily and refill as needed. Question number 102. What must air brake equipped vehicles have? A. An air application gauge to show air used by the brake chambers. B. A hydraulic braking system, in case the air system fails. C. At least 3 air tanks. D. An air pressure gauge to show pressure available for braking. The correct answers here. D. An air pressure gauge to show pressure available for braking. Explanation. All vehicles with air brakes have a pressure gauge connected to the air tank. If the vehicle has a dual air brake system, there will be a gauge for each half of the system, or a single gauge with 2 needles. These gauges tell you how much pressure is in the air tanks. Question number 103. As part of your vehicle inspection test, if your vehicle is equipped with air brakes and has a trailer, you'll inspect the air connections between the truck or tractor and the trailer. Make sure that they are locked in place and free of damage or air leaks. A. Lug nuts. B. Pins. C. Glad hands. The correct answers here. C. Glad hands. Explanation. As part of your vehicle inspection test, if your vehicle is equipped with air brakes and has a trailer, you'll inspect the air connections between the truck or tractor and the trailer. These connections are made with hose couplers, commonly called glad hands because they vaguely resemble shaking hands. These glad hands have rubber seals to form a tight connection and prevent air from escaping. Make sure that the glad hands are locked in place and free of damage or air leaks. Question number 104. Most large vehicles with air brakes have spring brake switch. A. Are part of the parking brake system's operation only. B. Are part of the service brake system only. C. Can be used for normal braking. D. Are part of both the parking and emergency brakes. The correct answers here. D. Are part of both the parking and emergency brakes. Explanation. Spring brakes are part of both the parking and emergency brake systems. Question number 105. If you must make an emergency stop, brake so that A. You'll definitely lock the brakes. B. You can use the parking brake before the brake pedal. C. Your vehicle will stay in a straight line. The correct answers here. C. Your vehicle will stay in a straight line. Explanation. If you must brake in an emergency, brake in a way that keeps your vehicle in a straight line while still letting you turn if necessary. You can use the controlled braking method or, in a vehicle without anti-lock brakes, the stab braking method.